Welcome to our Backyard Brothers podcast. It is, I think we're knocking out the final day of uh, of our bingo card for the days that we meet with our Backyard Brothers podcast. We've met every day except Friday, and today we're knocking it out. So, if you had your bingo cards, you're done. So it's a bingo. We've now met every single day of the week at some point during this podcast. So. It's a Friday afternoon, so a little bit different than usual. It was important to make sure we were all here, and there were some scheduling difficulties with other days of this week. So, but we're continuing with the NFL preview, week 3 of 4, doing the NFC West and the AFC East. So I'm going to share my screen, and we'll get started with the NFC West. With the Arizona Cardinals, and Dustin is up for this team.
Yeah, let's talk about the NFC Cardinals. So last year they had a very bad season, especially on defense, with finished kind of just last in the league in points allowed and in rushing yards allowed. And so they really need to shore up that defense. On the offensive side, Kyler Murray was, when he was drafted, he looked like he was going to be great. He's had some rough games, rough seasons. ACL tear, was it 2 years ago? Started mid-season and did okay. But still much to be desired. For the skill positions on offense, we got James Conner, who's kind of, a mid-tier running back. He's dependable. He had more than 1,000 yards last year. And then they brought in some rookies, Troy Benson and Marvin Harrison Jr. Obviously, big names there, especially with Marvin Harrison Jr. That they're hoping to get more weapons for Murray to throw the ball to. And you got here on the offensive line a couple of new additions. Last year was a total mess. They did very bad last year, and so hoping to kind of bring that up. They got a lot of starters here. And then some new additions to try to make it stronger. For defense, totally new defensive line. Again, defense, especially the rushing defense, was bad last year, and so they're deciding to do a total reset on defense. Justin Jones is a solid nose tackle to help kind of shore that out, and so hopefully they can do that great. Looking at linebackers, Kazir White is switching places with Zaven Collins, or he switched last year, and so trying to shore that up to see if they can do that again and work it out. And then Dennis Gardak is known as the Barbarian. It's a great nickname, and he was an FCS undrafted rookie and is going to be great as a pass rusher to help with that. Best player on the team is Budda Baker. 87 tackles last year, but makes a huge impact, not just in the pass defense, but in every way. You got a rookie there, Max Melton. And then overall, there's no other names that really pop off the page except perhaps Sean Murphy Bunting came over from Tennessee. Depth, a lot to be desired. Biggest thing is Desmond Ridder sitting there in the backup spot. No other.
Jay Dallas looks like somebody pulled a gun on him from behind the camera.
Yep, that's the same one from last year. He looks fun.
Like, oh my God, I'm in the NFL.
All right, so in defensive depth, they had no other names that seriously jump off the page. But this is kind of where we've already said that they need to be stronger, is on defense, both starting and in depth here. And so I don't think that they've quite been able to put the names on the field that puts any sort of confidence that their defense is gonna be able to stop opponents. And so it's going to be just an interesting to see what the coaches can do to put that together. For special teams, you got Matt Prater, been around for a long time, fairly consistent and accurate kicker. And then Blake Gilkin, that's a great name, with a good punting average there. And then here we are, everybody in their second season. Jonathan Gannon, Drew Petzing, Nick Rallis, everyone in their second season. Which is great considering they only won 4 games last year, that they all came back. That the front office is saying, okay, let's give them at least one more season. We've all agreed they need multiple. And so hopefully they can transition into a winning culture there in Arizona.
I'm going to switch screens. Okay, this is the Cardinals. I've already queued it up here since it's the first one, but go ahead, Dustin.
Yep, so I'll start off read for Pam's question here. On paper, it seems like they should do well, but isn't that what it's been like for a while now? What is needed for this team to make the paper realistic?
Yeah, my answer was if the young talent coming in this year can play up to the hype, they can find some success. Most of that young talent being Marvin Harrison Jr. and then the defense. We need defense from the Cardinals, but I still don't see them finding that. But if those things happen, that's how it happens.
And any follow-up analysis from you, Yancey, or is that it?
That would basically be it, that they need to shore up the defense. Not sure that I have faith that that's going to happen, but there should be some exciting plays on offense to watch coming out of Arizona. But that would be my summary, is that on defense, they don't have enough to stop enough teams in the league to get over 9 wins, let's say.
Yeah, good comments. So Backyard Dad's question: how many games will Kyler Murray play before he either gets injured or benched as they move on to the next quarterback? So here I'm answering here, and my answer is, last year he had played 10 games and had 6 losses. Kyler Murray's officially a bust. I think the Cardinals will give up and bench him by game 10, and then he'll be playing somewhere else in 2025. I continue to stand by that. Yancey, you mentioned, having Marvin Harrison Jr. there, great talent. I think that Kyler Murray spends way too much running, like when my 3-year-old takes something he shouldn't have, he's running in circles trying to get away, and that's the Kyler Murray thing. He just runs around trying not to get sacked, and then ends up either throwing a pick or getting sacked anyway, and blowing an ACL in the process. And
now, how much of that is trying to help your team because you're trying to create a play, and how much of that is not having a line? Like, how much of that is Kyler Murray's fault, or like his play style, or is it the fact that he's running for his life, so bad things are going to happen,
I think it's a mix of both.
Yeah.
I was going to say, oh, go ahead. You go, Dustin. Sorry.
All right. Sorry. Yeah. So it is, I think there is a mix of both, but in today's NFL, the offenses need to be designed that the quarterback gets rid of the ball in less than 3 seconds. That's the way that the offenses are designed. And so, you should be able to get through read number 1, 2, 3 basically in 3 seconds. And so running around in the backfield because you couldn't make a decision within those few seconds, there's an opportunity for either better play calling or better decision making. And so, the line can blow some things up, but there's some play calling and some coaching that can help with that. And I know everybody else has different comments. Go ahead.
I can just give mine during my analysis, so we can move on.
Okay, so then mine is next, which is, what is a realistic stat line for Marvin Harrison Jr. his rookie year? How many yards, touchdowns, et cetera, will he have? And a little bit of analysis into my question is really just, I think, touching on what you said, Dustin, about the team, I don't think they're going to have necessarily any more wins this year. I don't think that they're going to be any better, but I do think they're going to score more points.
Yeah, I think regardless of position, I think Marvin Harrison was probably the best football player in the draft. And so he's going to get a lot of attention. But what I've said in my question or my answer here, you've got to consider who's throwing him the ball. And in this case, it's Kyler Murray. The fact that opposing defenses will immediately focus on him as the number one guy. He might get double teamed from the beginning, even as a rookie. So you don't know what that's going to look like. That being said, I think a realistic stat line is pretty good. 60 catches, close to 1,000 yards, maybe 5 touchdowns. He immediately becomes number one receiver, and I think he is my pick for offensive rookie of the year. I think he wins that thing. He's going to be a proven receiver pretty early. My analysis obviously goes into who's throwing him the ball, and based on what the offensive line and what the quarterback, they kind of help or hurt each other at times. Every line and every quarterback does that. It's a partnership. And when you have a horrible line that lets someone in immediately, like the Cardinals did last year, your quarterback's going to run around. However, when your style of play is already to run around, it hurts the offensive line not knowing where your quarterback is anyway. And so it's a partnership that can help or hurt each other. And last year, I think they hurt each other because the style of play for Kyler Murray, as well as just a bad offensive line to begin with.
Yeah, to kind of, I wonder if I could comment on that. Like, kind of what I said is the offensive line is built, their bodies, their athleticism is built to operate 100% for 4 to 6 seconds at a time. After that, they lose their athleticism and they lose their motivation to try to chase a defender to get a block.
Okay. Any other comments about the Cardinals? Okay. We are stop sharing that one and we'll share this one. We are back to the presentation with the LA Rams, and it's over to you, Yancey.
Gotcha. So finished last year 10-7, not too bad. Second in the NFC West. Lost to Detroit in a very close, actually pretty entertaining game there. Finishing 7th and 8th in points per game and yards per game, respectively. Or I'm sorry, 19th and 20th, correct?
8th in points on offense, 7th in yards on offense. This side is defense.
Oh, gotcha. I was mixing in the abbreviations. Okay, we can move on. So we got Matthew Stafford here. He played fairly well. I mean, wasn't he in the top 3 performers for quarterback?
He had a better quarterback rating last year than he did when they won the Super Bowl. So
Gotcha. And then that's Pro Bowl for the gold, yeah?
Correct. Yep.
All right. We have Kyren Williams at the running back position, over 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns, not terrible there. Cooper Kupp, 59 receptions, 737 yards, 5 touchdowns. Puka Nacua, definitely a standout here. 105 receptions for 1,400 yards, 6 touchdowns. And then Higbee playing not great, to be honest with you. And then Atwell, 39 receptions, 483 yards, 3 touchdowns. It looks like Puka Nacua and the quarterback kind of the standouts here. Kyren Williams not playing bad, though. I'll definitely say that.
Well, Kyren Williams led the league in yards per carry. He was about over 5 yards per carry. That was best in the league. He was really, really good. Puka Nacua set a record for a rookie in both catches and yards last year. And if Cooper Kupp can be healthy, he wasn't last year. If he can get back to his MVP status a couple of years ago, that's a really, really dangerous offensive weapons.
And Lavender was
All pro.
All pro, thank you. We have the offensive line here. One new addition being Jonah Jackson coming out of Detroit. Looks like a fairly healthy offensive line here. Almost everybody got most of the starts in for the season. Kevin Dotson being all pro. the line here. We have 2 rookies starting on the defensive line here. I'm guessing that's the kind of counter losing Aaron Donaldson, right? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
And then Kobe Turner, 59 or 57 tackles, 9 sacks. 9 sacks isn't terrible, but we'd probably like to see a little more pressure coming out of the line. We definitely want to see these 2 Florida State guys performing this year.
And just as a quick thing, real quick, on Kobe Turner, if I'm not mistaken, he was in line for Defensive Rookie of the Year last year. Is that correct, Scott?
Yeah, I can't remember where he finished exactly, but it was second or third. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's
The 9 sacks.
really good. 9 sacks is pretty dang good, in my opinion.
Especially for a rookie. Yeah.
Yes.
Michael Hochit, 81 tackles, 6 sacks. That's not bad. 145 tackles, 4.5 sacks for Ernest Jones, and then Byron Young, 61 tackles, 8 sacks. Looks like these guys really get after the quarterback as a team defensively.
Yeah, I just want to. I didn't know how to pronounce this guy's name until I heard it last year. It's Hoyt. Is how you pronounce his name? Hoyt.
Okay.
What are all those other letters doing in there?
Yeah,
right.
right. Like, I didn't see no Y's.
But
I'm tired of getting called Hoychit the whole time.
But you can see this guy's size as a linebacker. The unconventional linebacker at over 300 pounds. He really good at rushing the passer, but a lot of teams tried to put him in position where he was guarding their running back out of the backfield. He's not quick enough for that, so he struggles in coverage.
Yeah, 310 is that's a big old boy.
Sounds like he covers the dinner table just fine.
You know, you can call him what you want, just don't call him late for supper. Tre'Davious White, coming from Buffalo. Quentin Lake, 53 tackles from your free safety. Darius Williams coming from Jacksonville. Kareem Curl coming out of Washington, and Kobe Durant, 39 tackles. I don't really see too many turnovers coming out of the secondary, but also we have a few guys coming from other places, so not a great read. Anybody have anything they'd like to mention about these guys?
Well, just
Tre'Davious White has been an All-Pro, I think, 4 different times in his career. He's a huge addition over there if he can stay healthy. Cameron Curl was an All-Pro 2 years ago with the Commanders, and so 2 really good guys coming over from 2 different teams.
Nice.
Agreed with that.
Jimmy Garoppolo, I guess, I don't know what happened to him. He ended up getting stuck out behind Stafford, but he played decent from what I've seen. Let's see. A couple of rookies, KT Levinson and Bo Limmer, Arkansas and Kansas State respectively. Blake Corum and Boston Scott, one coming from Philly, and then the rookie from Michigan being Blake Corum at running back. Anybody else that stands out to you guys?
The only one I knew.
That is, you didn't have to tell me he's from Arkansas with a name like Bo Limmer.
Cody, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, I was just going to say I'm just kind of excited to see Blake Corum in an NFL setting. He was really electric and exciting to watch in college. Obviously, part of that championship team.
He had 27 rushing touchdowns last year at Michigan. 27 rushing touchdowns. So
That's impressive.
Yeah. 28 overall. He also had 1 receiving touchdown. So.
All right, we got a Clemson rookie and Tyler Davis. Rookie coming out of Washington State, Brennan Jackson. Kareem Kitchens coming out of Miami. I don't really see too many other real standouts. Maybe Darian Kendrick from Georgia. And also Rose Boom. That's a cool name.
The only thing
like
I meant,
the guy in Shameless on steroids. Kevin.
I know. Yeah, I have to think of his name and his the actor's name, but Cameron Kinchens is the only one that I would want to mention here. He had 11 interceptions the last couple of years. That's the most in college football over that time. He could step in to play big minutes in that secondary.
Nice.
When you're baking, try not to rust the yeast.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a rookie kicker coming out of Stanford, smart guy. Joshua Carty, Ethan Evans, 49.2 average isn't terrible there. Alex Ward, our long snapper. Coaching staff looks like returning, except for the offensive coordinator, Mike LaFleur. Oh, no, he is returning for the second season, yeah?
Yeah, Chris Shula is the new guy here.
Chris Shula is the new guy. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Is he a son or grandson of the legendary Don Shula?
Grandson, yep.
Nice.
Grandson of Don Shula. He's been on the Ram staff since Sean McVay started, really. But just being promoted because Raheem Morris is now the Falcons head coach.
Yeah, overall, I think this is a young coaching staff from what you see on the average in the NFL, and I think that they brought some pretty fresh, exciting ideas to the offense, and the offense has actually executed fairly well behind those ideas.
All right, stop share this one and move over to this one, and you have to see me scroll through the Rams. Okay. Dustin. Oh, you're muted, Dustin.
Sorry, I had kids screaming in the background. All right, start with me. The Rams spent 4 picks on defensive linemen. How will the defense be without Aaron Donald?
That's over to you,
And Barb's answer, or the backyard dad's answer was, you can't replace Aaron Donald. There will be a lot of games where they really miss him, but within a couple of years, their defense will be more than solid, which is something I'd agree with as far as analysis goes. And then for my question to Pam, can the Rams fill the hole left in the loss of Aaron Donald for the defense and still play well on offense? Pam said, I agree that Aaron Donald can't just be replaced, sorry. And I do think that the Rams will be able to develop a new Aaron Donald-less look, but it won't be until the end of the season, if not until next even.
So my question was kind of on the Rams draft strategy, and I kind of have to explain that for anyone who doesn't know. The Rams, they had their first round pick this year since 2016 when they drafted Jared Goff first overall. So they have traditionally traded away their first round picks to get a lot of new people and to kind of use the middle rounds of the draft. And so my question, we had given the Rams a lot of bad time for their drafting strategy of trading away first rounders for those middle rounders, but they found a lot of gems in those rounds, like Puka Nacua last year, who was excellent, and it was a 4th round pick. So is this actually a good strategy and one that other teams should mimic if they do their right kind of evaluation of these players?
Yeah, so I'll read my answer first. I just said I think it's a risky strategy most of the time, not all, but first round picks play out pretty well, especially non-QB first round picks. I think that there are always hidden gems in the draft. Like you just mentioned Puka Nacua, I also mentioned Brock Purdy. But giving away your first round pick will always be risky no matter the reward, is my personal opinion. I think that hidden gems do exist, but if you're going to be banking on a 5th round pick every year or a first round pick, that one you're probably going to be, kind of 50-50 on that one. But if you're trying to bank on a wide receiver or a corner first round pick, you're more likely going to get to nail that one. So although it's worked out for them, I don't think it's something that other people should mimic.
I have a little bit of pushback on that, just that if you do your evaluation correctly, I think you can find a lot of good players in a lot of good places that people are not looking at as much. And you can't always be 100% on a first rounder. I mean, Jamarcus Russell, right? Number 1 overall pick, was a horrible quarterback. And so you have to go deeper than just, hey, this is a first round talent, let's grab him. It's about being a little bit more intentional with how you're working with evaluations, in my opinion.
Right, and I agree, and I did mention especially non-QBs. I do feel like QBs are honestly a little bit more risky than other positions. I'm not sure why, but I definitely feel that way. But I do think that missing out on first round picks for 8 years now, I guess, or 7 years, is not something that other people should be probably mimicking.
Yeah, I would say, that for a first round pick, probably 50% is being a great college player, and the other 50% is marketing. Having a really good agent that sells you to all of these analysts that says, oh, he's going to be great, and all this. And so, yeah, doing your own analysis to make up for that 50%, that's just noise, is where a good first round pick comes from.
I think that's a pretty fair assessment. Do you guys remember Terrell Pryor?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it was the tattoo artist's fault. He could have done great if it weren't for that sneaky tattoo artist selling jerseys to people. I just wanted to bring him up. He was one of those, I think, that Dustin, you mentioning like having a great agent to push you above your talent. I think Terrell Pryor is one of those guys that pops up into the top of my head where that's the reason he got where he was other people pushing him more so than what he could actually perform up to in the NFL.
Yeah. Okay. On to the 49ers. 49ers last year looked like the best team in the NFL for much of the year. They went to their 3rd straight NFC Championship game, 4th in the last 5 years. They were 3rd in points, 2nd in yards, 3rd in points allowed, 1st in rushing touchdowns. They were really good all around. Obviously won the 2 close playoff games before losing in overtime to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Brock Purdy will continue to be one of the best stories in the NFL. Obviously, Mr. Irrelevant all the way to last year having the best quarterback rating of any player in the NFL. He played last year his first full season as a starter. It looked every bit as good as the half season he played in his rookie year. 31 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He has the best team-friendly deal of any contract in the NFL. There's a lot of stories about him getting paid less than $1 million right now because of where his draft was. So because of that, the 49ers can afford to bring in a lot of other weapons for him. That's going to change next season when he's eligible for that contract extension. But this year, it's nice. The 49ers have a ridiculous combination of offensive weapons, the best collection in the NFL. If the MVP was not a quarterback award, which I would advocate that it shouldn't be, Christian McCaffrey probably had the best chance to win it last year. He led the NFL in all-purpose yards, more than 2,000 last season. Also led the NFL in touchdowns from scrimmage with 21. Brandon Ayuk is in a contract dispute right now, and he's had a lot of teams linked to him in trades. The 49ers hold all the cards, and so they're really making every team have to throw out a lot of crap to get him. And so we'll see what happens. He's been linked to at least 3 different teams in trades. Deebo Samuel had 12 touchdowns last year, 7 through the air, 5 on the ground. And George Kittle went back to the All-Pro team as well. He had another 1,000-yard season. He's still the best tight end in football after the catch. Kyle Juszczyk has been the best fullback in the NFL for the last 5 years. He's probably used more than any other fullback on an offense in the NFL. Trent Williams, still probably the best left tackle in the league, but he's in his mid-30s now. He probably only has another couple of seasons left. He and Aaron Banks make up one of the best left sides in football. Jake Brendel has developed from a 7th-round pick all the way to being a top half of the league center. The right side of the line is where it gets kind of dicey. John Feliciano is expected to leapfrog into that starting right guard role. Colton McKivitz had his struggles at right tackle last year, but the 49ers are really committed to him. Nick Bosa had 10.5 sacks last year. He felt that was a down year for him, but it was good enough for an all-pro league. Javon Hargrave went to the Pro Bowl with 7 sacks next to him. They lost a lot of defensive line players. Chase Young is gone. Randy Gregory is gone. Eric Armstead is gone. So they had to bring in someone. They brought over Leonard Floyd from the Bills, who had double-digit sacks last year as well, to kind of take some pressure off of Bosa. Fred Warner, the best linebacker in the NFL, pure and simple right now, had 132 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 4 interceptions. He both in the run game and in pass coverage. There's really not a better linebacker. Dre Greenlaw is the guy who flies under the radar because of how good Warner is. Greenlaw is really good himself. However, if you all remember, he tore his Achilles in the Super Bowl celebrating. You guys remember that? He was celebrating on a special teams play and tore his Achilles on the sideline. So he'll likely miss most of the season, if not all of it. And so they brought over Devondre Campbell from the Packers to help offset that loss, add to the roster once he comes back. Charvarius Ward became one of the best cornerbacks in the league. He shut down opposing number 1 receivers, 5 interceptions last year. The other corner spot is unsettled right now. Rock Ya-Sin, the veteran from the Ravens, is probably going to get the first look there. Diamador Lenoir really blossomed as a slot corner, moving from the outside. And then 2 good safeties, Talanoa Hufanga and Jair Brown. Losing Sam Darnold in free agency, the Niners brought over Joshua Dobbs as their new backup quarterback. Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason, Isaac Guerrero, your 3 running backs. Guerrero is really fast, second fastest running back in the combine. So 49ers want to see him with the ball. Juwan Jennings had a great Super Bowl. He both caught a touchdown and threw a touchdown in the Super Bowl, if you all remember that. And so he comes back as that 3rd receiver. Ricky Pearsall, the number 1 overall pick out of Florida. Jacob Cowing, another draft pick out of Arizona, is really fast, probably a return specialist. They've struggled at tight end to kind of get depth behind George Kittle, so they've added Logan Thomas, who's a starter most of the time he's been in the NFL, kind of adding that depth behind Kittle. Dominic Puny is a not puny guy, but he is going to start at guard this year, but he's probably the long-term solution for Trent Williams at left tackle once he retires. Yetur Gross-Matos comes in to also help with the defensive line. Tatum Bethune, Florida State rookie. Renardo Green, also a Florida State rookie that may win that other outside corner spot that I talked about earlier. Malik Mustafa, another rookie out of Wake Forest. Jake Moody had his ups and downs. He was pretty reliable during the regular season, missing only 4 field goals, 1 extra point. He did miss 1 of both in the Super Bowl. And so, as a rookie, he had his ups and downs. Kyle Shanahan, in his 8th season as head coach, Shanahan tree continues to grow large and large based on how popular his style of offense is, and no one does it better than the originator. And so his offenses are always lead the league in yards after the catch. I think they've done that every season of his 8 years. 49ers have led the league in yards after the catch every season he's been there, which is pretty impressive. He fired his defensive coordinator and hired 2 guys to replace him. One, Nick Sorensen, was defensive backs coach, and Brandon Staley was the Chargers head coach until he was fired midseason. He's been in the Kyle Shanahan system before, and so he's kind of bringing him back into the fold. Likes his defensive chops there.
Question real quick. Was Kyle Shanahan ever part of the Andy Reid tree?
Kyle Shanahan was part of the Mike Shanahan tree.
Oh, okay.
His dad.
Family tree.
I was going to say family tree.
Bum.
Okay, moving to the document. Looks like Dustin gets to go first.
All right, this is the question I know that, Scott, you'll hate, but is Brock Purdy officially a top-tier quarterback? Has he proven himself yet?
Do you have analysis to talk about too, Dustin?
It is. I'm still on the trend where I'm not quite sold on him yet, and I think Pam has a similar answer that we'll talk about. But it's just kind of interesting that he could be or he couldn't be, and so that's where my thought comes from.
Yeah, and Pam answering that question said she's not really fully sold either, because the 49ers have such a stacked offense. How would he be on a team like the Panthers? For me, honest analysis, you look at the numbers between Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo, they're about the same when they were on the 49ers. There is a system here that's really friendly to quarterbacks. Brock Purdy is benefiting from that system. You get it to your great weapons and let them go. Yes, a lot of good tier quarterbacks would be great on the 49ers. They have struggled when they've had Nick Mullins or CJ Beathard in the Kyle Shanahan offense. And so you do have to have a certain level of talent to excel. And so there is that bar that Brock Purdy is certainly clearing. At the same time, to kind of push back against Pam, I don't think, Patrick Mahomes would do great on the Panthers right now. So
I do like what she said at the end there. A top tier quarterback makes plays with little resources. That's probably really true.
Yes, but no. Like that's been the argument every time when people talked about Brock Purdy. But then the best comparison I've heard is Kurt Warner, right? Same situation. He was an undrafted player. He was never drafted, and came into the league, and he won an MVP, and everyone's like, Kurt Warner, but he's not Kurt Warner. But Kurt Warner had Isaac Bruce, and he had Torrey Holt, and he had Marshall Faulk. I mean, you have to have weapons to succeed. You have to have resources to succeed as a quarterback. So, and you guys can talk about that here in a second too. But my question: 49ers are clearly one of the best teams in the NFL. They have been for really the last 5 years, but they still haven't won a championship. And what is the biggest thing on this team that has held it back from winning a title? And you can't say Patrick Mahomes.
Well, too bad. You're not going to like this one. So they're a solid all-around team. The only problem isn't on the 49ers. Is that they seem to play poorly against the Chiefs and in big games. So really what I see there is that they just haven't played well deep into the playoffs. And, I mean, they haven't played poorly. They played well. They just haven't pulled it off and rounded the season off and finished it right.
I agree. They played fine against the Chiefs. Both teams were really they both played good games, and you could say the 49ers played a better game in that Super Bowl except for the fourth quarter, right? And that's what it mattered. So, Cody.
All right. So what do defensive coordinators need to be doing specifically to be able to beat Shanahan? What is the best preparation against this offensive juggernaut?
And my dad's answer was good luck. The defensive formula is 1, stop the run, 2, put it on Purdy with as many different schemes as possible. If you don't win the turnover battle, you probably can't win the game. That's probably true for most teams, most games. But I like Dad's strategy here. You've got to stop Christian McCaffrey and make Purdy when throwing the ball. Even with that, though, the 49ers offense all their passing offense is extensions of the run game. And so that's tough to do. I agree.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dustin.
Just on some of the things said is that what I think we all agree with is that strategy eats talent for breakfast. And the 49ers have a lot of talent, but they have fantastic strategy, fantastic coaching, fantastic system. To continue that argument, if you put Patrick Mahomes on the Panthers, won't be anywhere near where he is now because he has fantastic coaching and strategy. Same thing with this 49ers team, fantastic coaching and strategy. And one of these seasons, maybe this season, it's going to click and they're going to win the big one.
Okay. Stop sharing this one and move over to this one and the Seattle Seahawks. You're up, Cody.
All right, time for the best team. Just kidding. So I say that, and then I have to say, well, they were third in the NFC West. And, so they finished 9-8. They were horrible in, I think it was rushing yards, trying to stop rushing yards. They were 25th.
31st.
No, sorry, I read that wrong. 31st. So almost last. And 17th in offensive points per game, 21st in yards per game. So defensively, they just were near the end. Offensively, they were middle of the pack at best. So they were not very good. Geno Smith says he was a Pro Bowler. I'm not sure if he really played like one, but he was listed as a Pro Bowler. He's definitely not elite. He's not great, but he is reliable. He's good enough. He gets it done, but he's not the future. Moving on. The offensive weapons here, trying not to be biased, I do think it's a very good standout here, or look like. We got Kenneth Walker. I think he's a great back, probably top 6 or 5 in the league would be my opinion. Nearly 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns. He's really fast. He's agile and he's tough. He can just run right into you. DK Metcalf, Pro Bowler, 1,000-yard season. I think he's had 1,000-yard season for the past 4 years straight now. So he's doing really good there, and 8 touchdowns as well. He's a big guy, kind of a Calvin Johnson-like receiver, just in some ways than others. Tyler Lockett, also good year. Jackson Smith and Jacob had a good rookie season. Definitely needs to get some more catches or some more yards and some more touchdowns. Then Noah Fant did okay as a tight end. Offensive line 2 years ago was fantastic, basically because of Abraham Lucas and Charles Cross, 2 really good tackles. However, last year they both got hurt. Abraham Lucas was out for nearly most of the season, probably about 3/4 of the season, which hurt the team a lot. And Charles Cross was out for probably about 1/4 of the season, which really hurt a lot. So last year's offensive line took quite a hit. So they brought in Christian Haynes as a rookie and brought in Laken Tomlinson from the Jets to try to get that going. I also saw that they just signed, I forget his name now, but center from the Dolphins to come in to try to play Olu here.
Connor Williams.
What's that? I'm sorry?
Connor Williams.
That's the name. Thank you. Connor Williams. They just signed Connor Williams from Miami, who is a great center. So he's going to be challenging Olu at that center start. All right, defensive line. We've got Leonard Williams, who signed a pretty big extension. He came from the Giants 2 years ago, I believe it was. Did pretty well 2 years ago. This last year he did okay. I don't know if he was injured or not, but he could have done a lot more. Draymond Jones, he came over from that Russell Wilson trade that was awesome for the Seahawks. And then Byron Murphy, Seattle's first-round pick. He was pick 16, I think he was, or 16 or 17. He, in size comparison, he's very much like Aaron Donald. He's very short, 6 foot, had a lot of pressure rates. In talent, we can't say if he's like Aaron Donald, not until 10 years from now. So we'll see. But he is expected to be really good. He was fantastic in college. Linebackers, Boye Mafe had a rough season 2 years ago. This last year, he probably was the most improved player on the Seahawks. Went from, I think, maybe 1 sack to 9 sacks. He did fantastic this year. Uchenna Nwosu was injured last year, but he's been just a pin in the defense. He's been really important to them. And then they brought over 2 linebackers because they lost their most important unit. The Seahawks did. They lost both Bobby Wagner as well as Jordan Brooks. Really, really hurts. But they brought over Jerome Baker from Miami and Tyrell Dodson from Buffalo. Two good linebackers, but not necessarily elite. In the secondary, led by All-Pro Devin Witherspoon, the rookie from last year. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe he was in the line for Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Number 2. Yeah.
Thank you. I didn't know that. Number 2. So he was fantastic. 79 tackles, 3 sacks, 1 interception, 1 touchdown, which, by the way, I was at the game to witness the interception and touchdown. It was awesome. And he's just electric. He's a hard hitter, exactly what the Seahawks like. Rick Woolen was a Pro Bowler 2 years ago. So they have really good set corners there. And Julian Love really kind of taking the place of, I guess he took the place of Jamal Adams, but also kind of taking the place of Quandre Diggs a little bit as well. So he's sitting in there. He's sitting pretty there. And brought over Rayshon Jenkins from Jacksonville, who's similar to the linebackers. He's great, but he's not elite status. Offensive depth, we brought over Sam Howell from Washington to back up Geno, as well as the idea of future, with the idea of, let's basically get him as a draft pick and see how he does behind Geno for a while. So I think that Seahawks are hoping that he'll be there for a while and will help out. Zach Charbonnet is a great running back as well. His stats don't show it as much, but he's very fast. He's a little bit more of a bowling ball, if you will, than Kenneth Walker is. A great change of pace kind of back. Brought in Laviska Shenault for return specialists. Jake Bobo has been kind of a mysterious sensation. He's really kind of slow, but he's been making plays like crazy. So it's been kind of cool. Other than that, I think really anything else to add? I mean, Utah fan, glad Satellamea was able to come to Seattle. Other than that, anything else you guys want to add on this depth?
Nope. You covered it.
All right, defensive depth. Let's see here. Darrell Taylor's been doing pretty well. He got 5.5 sacks as not a starter, so that's pretty good. And then Nehemiah Pritchett and DJ James both come from Auburn as draft picks. And then Tyrese Knight was also a draft pick to help out with the linebacker unit. Other than that, Mike Jackson and Trey Bowen are pretty reliable corners as well. Anything else you guys want to add?
Nope.
Special teams. Jason Myers, very fairly reliable, especially in extra points. 33 out of 33, 100% there. Field goals can definitely have some more improvement. Missed about 7, looks like. But overall, he's pretty reliable. He's pretty good. Michael Dixon is a great punter. Averages 50 per punt. He's great to keep around. And Chris Stoll, from what I understand, has been, I think, even nominated as one of the better long snappers in the league. Coaching staff, brand new look all around. We got Mike McDonald, who was the Ravens defensive coordinator for a while there. He's been on Baltimore staff for a long time, but he is now the youngest head coach in the league. So he's taken over. Ryan Grubb was the University of Washington offensive coordinator. He's the one who took them to the national championship and played against Michigan. So it's going to be a little bit different of a look as far as offensive goes in Seattle. And Aiden Durde, which is fun to listen to him, by the way. He's got a pretty thick English accent. He is the defensive coordinator, comes over from Dallas as defensive line coach to help out there.
Oops. Okay. Stop sharing this one and we'll open up this one.
All right, and start with you, Yancey.
Yeah, so I don't see a lot of wins this season. Who can be the star on this team and change my mind?
You're asking a Seahawks fan this question.
Yeah, I see the column over there got real
big
real fast.
And I had to cut that down, by the way. So, okay, my answer is the Seahawks have one of the top 3 wide receiver trios in the NFL, if not the number 1. They also have 2 great backs in Kenneth Walker III and Zach Charbonnet. They can be the stars. They, as in those 5 individuals. In the trio, by the way, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith and Jigba, who was a first-round pick from Ohio State a year ago. The only lingering questions is if Geno can be the 2022 Geno, or is he going to be the 2023 Geno? If it's 22 Geno, then 10 wins is the minimum. If it's 2023 Geno, then 10 wins would be the ceiling, if even that. And if I have any analysis on that, I mean that kind of answers the analysis for that. We'll move on to Backyard Dad. He says, I'm thinking it will take quite a while for the offensive line to get together. Will they already be out on the playoff race by the time that happens?
Yeah, and let me, when I was talking to Dad about this, because I did all of this with Dad over the phone, by the way, and he asked me the question directed to you, Cody, is what does Cody think about the Seahawks? Because there's 2 ways that can be looked at this. You're either, oh my gosh, we are in for the paper bag season, time to put the paper bag over our heads, or it's the delusional fan, we're going to the playoffs no matter what. Which one is Cody? So, and I said, I don't know. We're going to find out when we talk to Cody. And Cody, I think you're fully in that second camp right now, that we're going to the playoffs. but because my answer here is whether their line gels early or late, it doesn't matter. They won't even be in the playoff race at any point this season. I think the whole team is too young. No one will gel. It's not a question of they're devoid of talent, because that's not the case. I think they have a head coach shifting that whole philosophy completely. I mean, you have Pete Carroll, who was that really enthusiastic guy on the sideline. He wore his emotions on his sleeve. He did all of those great things. You're having a complete shift in Mike McDonald. He's the exact opposite. This guy is the personification of you never get too high, you never get too low. You don't want to get those guys you don't want our team to see you get low. You don't want to see the other team think you get high. And you're also going from the oldest coach in the NFL to the youngest coach in the NFL. It's a huge shift in culture, a huge shift in organization. And I think they got the right guy. I don't want to make that seem like I don't think that. I think Mike McDonald's a great coach, but it's going to take a year. That's my thought.
All right, moving on to Pam. She says the Seahawks and Pete Carroll were one identity. So in a post-Pete Carroll world, what is going to be the hardest thing for this team to create? Dustin?
I say it's identity, and so it's important to create a new identity. And just like what Scott said, that takes time. It's a new culture. You got to create an identity. And honestly, the best place to start with that is on defense. Create a defensive identity and let the team follow that.
Okay. We're going to go down to the picks here. NFC West. All of us have the 49ers winning this division. There's no debate among us there. Most of us, except Dustin, has the Rams finishing second. Dustin, even more than Cody, has the Seahawks in second place. Dustin, can you explain that?
I love you.
So first of all, Cardinals are at the bottom no matter what, right? That's there. And I Seahawks being in second place doesn't mean they're doing good. It means they're doing better than the Rams and the Cardinals, which I think is going to be a pretty low bar. So like Cody kind of said, I think 8-9 wins is probably the maximum for that team, and that gets them in second place in this division, which is pretty sad.
Most of us have just in whatever order the Seahawks and Cardinals in 3 or 4. Dustin, I think the Rams are a playoff team still this year. I think they're even better than they were last year. I actually think the Cardinals are going to be better than the Seahawks this year. Again, that's not saying that the Cardinals are really good or the Seahawks are really bad necessarily. I think both teams are winning 5 or 6 games this year in one or the other order. So that's why I have the Seahawks at the bottom. Anything you want to say, Cody or Yancey, about you two have the exact same order. So
yeah, I'm in the same camp as you, thinking that both of these teams are going to battle it out to see who sucks less, being the Seahawks and the Cardinals. I think you're really underestimating the Rams there, Dustin. We'll have to see if you're right about that or not. That's interesting. And then, I think the Cardinals just, even when they're good, they suck. Like, they had Larry Fitzgerald and all kinds of, when they had all the weapons in the world, they still just couldn't really do it. I guess they did. They won a Super Bowl, right? So I can't.
They lost the Super Bowl. They
lost the Super Bowl. That sounds more like the Cardinals. Yeah, I don't disagree too much. I think you're a little crazy, Cody, for thinking that the Seahawks are so good, but that's fine. That's okay. I like the Colts, so we can be together on that. Yeah, that's it.
Well, my thought, so when I think a team sucks, that means they're doing, 4 or 5 or 6 wins. And the Seahawks are getting more than that no matter what, in my opinion. So they're at least 8 wins. They're getting around 8 wins. And so in my mind, the Seahawks are not going to suck. They're not going to be great, though. I think the 49ers are going to be having 12 or 13 wins. The Rams are going to have 10 or 11. So I agree with Scott that both the Niners and the Rams are probably going to be playoff teams, while the Cardinals are sitting down there at 4 or 5 wins. The Seahawks are around 8 or 9.
Just because I don't see the pink elephant doesn't mean you don't see the pink elephant, Cody. Love you, bud.
Yeah. Well, We'll check in with you in about October, November.
Yeah, right.
Sounds
Keep
good.
that energy, my guy. Keep that energy. 8 wins or die.
Do it.
Okay. Jumping to the AFC East, and we're back with you, Cody. You get 2 in a row.
Okay. So we got the 2023 11-6 Bills, who were first in the AFC East, but barely got that. They did win a wild card against Pittsburgh, but then lost to Kansas City again. This time it was 27-24. It was a close game. Had a really good defense, very good. 4th in points per game, 9th in yards per game, and 3rd in turnovers forced. And then they also had a pretty good offense, 6th and 4th. Josh Allen is interesting because he's really, really good. Obviously, here he's an All-Pro, 4,300 yards, 29 touchdowns, but 18 interceptions. He also had 15 rushing touchdowns. So he's a point scorer, but he also likes to give the ball to a lot of people, even on the defense. And so when he wants to play well, he plays really well and can play as good as the number 1 quarterback in the league. And when he wants to play bad, he will play horrible. On the offensive talent here or weapons, we got James Cook, the rookie running back from last year. He 1,100 yards, 2 touchdowns, so he definitely needs to get some more touchdowns in, but he was running all over those yards. Curtis Samuel, addition from Washington, and Keon Coleman is a second-round wide receiver pick, kind of there to try to replace Stephon Diggs, which is a big, big loss. And then they got the 2 tight end scheme that they run. Dawson Knox, who had 2 touchdowns, 186 yards. And then Dalton Cade, got a shout out Utah, 673 yards and 2 touchdowns there. They got a pretty good offensive talent, but they did lose Stephon Diggs.
And Gabe Davis.
What's that?
And Gabe Davis.
Oh, thank you. And Gabe Davis. Offensive line, Deion Dawkins is All-Pro, 17 starts. So every single one of these players started every single game. That is
not quite. Read here. David Edwards played in every game, but he did not start.
I see. Okay.
They lose a left guard, and he's expected to jump into that spot.
Okay. So in that case, we can say, though, that this offensive line is very healthy, though. So it's a very healthy offensive line. Deion Dawkins is the light of that one. And then Osiris Torrance did a pretty good job as a rookie last year, I believe it was. So move forward. Defensive line, Gregory Rousseau, 5 sacks, 42 tackles, doing pretty good, but can definitely up those numbers. Ed Oliver is a household name at this point. He's a great defensive tackle, 9.5 sacks, 1 interception. Interceptions are pretty rare for defensive linemen, by the way, so that's pretty good. And then AJ Epinesa, I think is how you say it, also got a lot of sacks, 2 interceptions, 1 touchdown. Linebacker unit, so there's some change here. I think it was Tre'Davious White. He was a linebacker, right?
Corner.
Edmonds. I'm thinking of
yes,
Terrell?
Tremaine Edmonds. This linebacker unit was decimated last year with injuries. Both Milano and Miller were injured.
Okay. So Matt Milano and Von Miller still here from last year. Terrell Bernard, I guess he's still here as well, but he was not a starter as far as I know.
He was. He had huge numbers, 143 tackles, 3 picks, 6.5 sacks. He stepped into the middle linebacker spot when no one thought he would, and he excelled.
Okay. Tremaine Edmonds, where was he middle linebacker when he got injured?
No, he was in Chicago last year. He was traded at the beginning of last year.
I'm still living on 2 years ago. Okay.
How did Von Miller get as many tackles as I would playing for the Bills?
Because he was hurt for the first quarter of the season, and then pretty much that injury lingered throughout the whole season. He had his worst season as a pro by far.
Gotcha.
Because he gets more tackles injured than you get healthy.
Nah, bro. Put me in, coach. I'm getting more than 3.
All right. Moving on. I've got the secondary here. Again, we had said that this has changed quite a bit. They lost I'm forgetting the names now. Help me out.
They lost White, they lost Jordan Poyer, and they lost Micah Hyde.
Thank you. So three big names. They do have Kyrie Elam, who's been doing okay. They do like that they do like him a lot, so they want to keep him there. Taron Johnson, though, is the big name here. He's an all-pro, got a sack, 98 tackles. Mike Edwards from Kansas City, Taylor Rapp, and then Christian Benford, but it definitely looks different than what they used to have. Offensive depth, they brought in Mitchell Trubisky from Pittsburgh to back up Josh Allen. And they have, let's see here, they brought in Chase Claypool from Miami, who is just an interesting story at this point. I'm not sure what to expect from him. And then I think that's everything I have right here. Anyone else want to add on this?
It's the big receiver turnover. Obviously, the only receiver they returned from last year is Khalil Shakir. They're turning over the entire receiving core, which is a huge deal in Buffalo. And so that's a big one. Travis Clayton is the coolest story in the draft. He was a 7th-round pick. He has never played organized football ever, and he was a draft pick. The guy's a rugby player. He also was a boxer. And Yancey, I know you come from that world. Have you ever boxed against a 6'7", 300-pound guy? And what is that like? So,
not boxed, and no, no, I haven't. The biggest dude I fought was probably like 6'6", but 205 pounds. So like right there, but not 6'7", 6'8". Never mind. Yeah, that's a huge dude. You don't want to be faced with fighting that guy. My suggestion is grab a firearm. But that's just my opinion. If they're that large, you should shoot them and don't meet them in an octagon unless it's for a very high amount of money.
Okay, Cody, move on.
The only comment I would have is back on that page, center number 77. If his teammates make a play, do you know what he's going to do?
I think he's going to clap.
He will clap.
You were waiting that whole time to say that, Dustin. He was itching over there, I could tell. How punny, bro. How punny.
All right, defensive depth we got here. Let's see, where do I want to start on here? I'll just go right down to where I want to start. Safety Cole Bishop, Utah draft pick. He was a 2nd-round pick. My opinion, he was a great pick. He's very silent, very fast, silent on the sideline, speed, good coverage, able to rush the quarterback as well. So they got a good pick there. Russell Douglas is a great corner. 29 tackles, 4 interceptions, 1 touchdown. So he's good depth as well there. Other than that, I do know some of these names, but none of them are popping out at me.
I'm going to say that Edifwan Ulo-Fushio looks like the cat walked on the keyboard whenever he wrote his name down, but that's it.
All right, special teams, Tyler Bass, great kicker. 24 of 29 field goals, 49 of 50 extra points, very reliable punter. Sam Martin, 45.8, 51 punts, and then long snapper Reed Ferguson.
You say Tyler Bass is really good. He missed that very makeable 49-yard field goal in the AFC Championship game that would have sent that game to the playoff to overtime. So,
that's true. He missed a big one, but he hardly ever misses. So it was unfortunate. It was one of those.
Yeah.
And then coaching, of course, we still have Sean McDermott here, 8th season, same amount of time as Kyle Shanahan over at the 49ers. Doing really well, 73-41 record. Hasn't done what he wanted to yet. They've gotten close, but they've still not been able to reach the Super Bowl or win it. Joe Brady, offensive coordinator for 2nd season, and Bobby Babich, defensive coordinator 1st season from, it looks like he was Buffalo, linebacker and defensive backs coach. So he's been there for a while. So he knows.
Is that how you pronounce that name? I wanted to be sure, and I'm glad you said it that way.
I'm pretty sure it's Babich, but
okay.
Either way, high school was tough. Them hands are wild. I bet Bobby can fight.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to the. I have to find the Buffalo. Let's see how close I can get. Maybe right here. Oh, look at that. I'm good. So,
Babich is also what you call your girlfriend in the hood. Sorry. That's the only one. That's the only one I'll say.
All right, scroll. Oh no, is that the very top? Okay.
That is, yeah.
Okay.
So my question was obviously with a lot of turnover this season, turning over pretty much the entire secondary, the entire receivers room. There's going to be questions about whether this championship window is closing now. But the other question I had is, where does this team rank in disappointments for not even getting to the Super Bowl with the personnel that this team has had over the last few years?
You're muted,
You're
Dustin.
muted.
This, my answer is that this has been a disappointment for the Bills. The NFL is a league built on dynasties, and every decade has one. So we always remember the dynasties. We tend to forget the almost teams that are in the same conference that never made it to the Super Bowl or to the to the championship. To the conference championships because of those dynasties. So I think that the Bills are going to be one of those forgotten dynasties, and I think that they're done. That the window is closing. In fact, I think it's shut.
All right, moving on. So Pam asked the question, every year Josh Allen plays great, and as the season wears on, it becomes sloppy. Should we expect anything different this year? If so, what would have been the change? And Backyard Dad says, yes, we should expect more consistency with maturity and a quarterback coaching change. However, a part of his greatness is the confidence to extend a play or attempt a throw or attempt a throw he probably shouldn't. So we'll still see some costly turnovers, but worth putting up with that for the great plays.
Yeah, and Dad had some really great analysis that I thought was really good about this. He said, if you try to force Josh Allen to play safer, you're not going to get the big plays out of him that you need. You have to get the risks with the rewards with Josh Allen, is what he was saying. You're going to have to get those, 8 to 10 turnovers in a season. Hopefully it's just that many, 8 to 10 interceptions, because if you try to force him to play safer, you're going to wreck his entire game. Because that's not what he does. And I love that, what he said.
I agree with
It's
that.
kind
I
of fun
think
to
that
watch him. It's kind of fun to watch him like just spear a cornerback once a game. Just
yeah, I think that Josh Allen is really one of those prototype quarterbacks. Like when you think of what you want to build him at, is he's tall, semi-athletic, and does make good decisions. I think that's one of those guys that we just need the performance to come out of that would really help him out. And then my question, I kept it pretty simple. Will the Bills finish above the Dolphins in their division this year?
So I said that's a good question. With the loss of Stephon Diggs, I find it hard to believe they can do that. But at the same time, Tua can be a liability. So I guess I won't be surprised at either one. So I just said that, basically so much has changed with the Bills that it's hard to see that happening. But with their competition, it's kind of like it's been hard for them to stay consistent. So I don't know what to expect, but I guess I won't be surprised whatever happens.
Moving on, let's move to Yancey and the Dolphins.
All right, so 11-6, second in the AFC East, lost to the Chiefs, 26-7. Looks like we kind of, performed well offensively, but struggled defensively, especially when it came to the pass. They were able to pass well, being first in the league, and then first in the league with 27 rushing touchdowns and 5.1 yards per carry. Somebody say that for me.
Tagovailoa.
Tagovailoa. Do you guys practice that? Because it doesn't seem like that's how you say it. You guys just have like a pattern for it. Anyway, over 4,600 yards, 29 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Not bad at all. We have Raheem Mostert, Lavender being All-Pro, right? Or Pro Bowl?
Yes.
All-Pro?
All-Pro.
Thank you. 209 rushes for 1,000 yards, 18 touchdowns. Devon Kane, I'm thinking, 103 rushes, 800 yards, 8 touchdowns. That's a really nice 1-2 punch from those two. Tyreek Hill performing well, 119 receptions, 1,799 yards with 13 touchdowns. Jalen Waddleworth, I mentioned, also 72 receptions for 1,000 yards. And then Durham Smythe, not a whole lot to talk about, but it's hard to spread the ball out to everybody when everybody's performing that well, to be honest. Tyron Armstead there at the left tackle. He was a Pro Bowler, yes, with the gold. New addition coming from the center, being Aaron Brewer from Texas State. And then Austin Jackson at the right tackle kind of jumps out at me with the 16 starts. But it looks like they're kind of a young line, not really played a lot together. So that'll be interesting to see if they can put that together. Jonathan Harris coming from Denver. Zach Zeiler, try saying that 10 times fast, from Ferris State, 63 tackles, 10 sacks, 1 interception, 1 touchdown. Jalen Phillips, 6 sacks, 43 tackles, 1 interception, not bad. Bradley Chubb, 73 tackles, 11 sacks. 2 new additions in the middle there coming from Seattle and Cleveland, Anthony Walker and Jordan Brooks. Jalen Ramsey, another Pro Bowler, and then an All-Pro in Jevon Holland. We got Cater Kahoo, Jordan Poyer, and Kendall Fuller. Moving through the secondary players, interesting to see that Odell Beckham Jr. ended up on the bench. Wonder what that's about. A couple of rookie additions, Jalen Wright, Malik Washington, Taj Washington, and Patrick Paul.
Yeah, Odell, his prime is probably past, and so he's playing as the wide receiver 3 in this offense. He'll play a lot, but he's probably becomes the best wide receiver 3 in the NFL at this point.
Gotcha. Looks like, wow, a lot of additions in the offseason here, starting with Jack Driscoll, Nevin Gilmore, Benito Jones, Calais Campbell, Shaquille Barrett, and Chop Thompson is a rookie coming in first round. You're going to look at him, outside linebacker, it seems. Muhammad Kamara, rookie coming in from the 5th round. Cam Brown from New York. Cyan Neal coming from Buffalo. Marcus May coming from New Orleans. And Patrick McMorris, rookie drafted in the 6th round.
And Shaq Barrett just announced his retirement, so he won't actually play this year, but he's on there. So.
Gotcha. Jason Sanders, 24-28, 58-59, not terrible. Jake Bailey, averaging 45.7 yards per punt. I'd like to see that number come up above 50. Blake Ferguson, starting 17 games. Good for him. Frank Smith, Mike McDaniel, and Anthony Weaver are going to be the coaching staff. Looks like Anthony is joining from Baltimore this year. Any standouts or anything you guys want to mention amongst this coaching staff?
Just Mike McDaniel's offense is always really, really good.
He seems like a dude I would definitely hang out with. He seems like a cool guy from the way that he makes jokes and just kind of talks. It seems like a cool dude.
Okay. Stop this one and share this one. And scroll through the Dolphins. Whoops.
So starting with me, I say with Tua's recent injury history, should we expect Terran Armstead and Patrick Paul to be enough in the tackle spots to keep Tua clean? If so, could this be the most dangerous we have seen Tua?
Mine came with a little bit of analysis. I don't think Patrick Paul is starting at right tackle. He's the insurance policy for when and not if Armstead is injured. He's always injured. So because Tua's a lefty, the big position is at right tackle, the blind spot where Austin Jackson is. In short, the Dolphins' offense is really predicated on getting the ball out super quick. Mike McDaniel maybe has a different philosophy for his offensive line than any other team in the NFL. His is about speed. You saw the new addition at center. I can't remember his name right now, from Tennessee. He's 6'1" and about 280 pounds. Tiny center for like comparison wise. And he loves speed in his offensive line, and it's not about strength. It's about speed. And that's different from any other offensive line philosophy in the league.
Yeah, so over to me. So kind of going on this injury thing we just talked about a little bit. A lot of people say, hey, you got to avoid injuries in order to be good. Is there a cure? Is that a cure, avoiding injuries to make this team good? And what are the other issues that need to be addressed?
Yeah, Pam's answer was, you hear an analysis on nearly every team saying if they stay healthy. So it's not specific or special just to the Dolphins, but to further address your question, the cure is not just injury avoidance, but also consistency and performance, which I definitely agree with her answer there. And I think that's a well-rounded view of that question.
And Dustin, that goes back to your comment a few weeks ago about staying healthy is also a skill that the Dolphins lacked last year. So, last one.
Backyard Dad asked, it seems like Odell Beckham Jr. is the NFL's version of a hitman. He has a contract for 1 year and then he's moved to a different team. Why can't he stay with one team and contribute? Sorry about that. And I think he made us expect such greatness so early in his career that we missed the old Odell, him included. Not sure that there's a fix to this kind of problem. I will add, what's that dude that went crazy for the Steelers but was really great?
Antonio Brown.
Antonio Brown. So at least OBJ isn't putting his private parts in a lady's face at a pool, but you know, same thing. They missed the old version of themselves.
That we know about.
Okay, yeah, true. Okay, Dustin,
Don't put that on OBJ, bro.
We've got you for 10 minutes, so here's your.
Yeah. So talk about the Patriots. So the Patriots have been in a rebuild for the last couple of years, ever since Brady moved on. And they're still struggling to find a way out of it. You know, last year was no different. I think something to point out here is they only scored on 20% of drives. You know, 1 out of 5, which is basically scoring 2 to 3 times a game at best. So that's not good. They need to figure out how to get points at the end of the game. So starting with quarterback, looking at, they had Mac Jones last year. They moved on from him and are going with experience and Jacoby Brissett, who's been an experienced both starter and backup in the league. For their skill positions, no extreme names pop off. The screen Juju Smith-Schuster has had some great seasons in the past, and so bringing him over to try to be number 1 there. And then Ramondre Stevenson was solid last year, sharing time with Elliott. With Elliott gone, he's going to be the number 1 guy and going to try to improve on his previous season. Hunter Henry is usually one of those top tight ends.
So just real quick, the Patriots actually released Juju Smith-Schuster today.
Oh. Did they really? I didn't hear that one.
They just released him today.
Right.
Well, good.
Oh.
All right, for the offensive line, as you can see, no colors here. Nobody did anything special last year. They brought over that man from Pittsburgh and hope to shore up the offensive line.
Chumbawamba Okafor.
Yeah. And Chukwuma Okorafor was the right tackle in Pittsburgh. He's being asked to play left tackle in New England. So
yeah. So to change from right tackle to left tackle, it's not like learning to drive on the other side of the road. It's like learning to walk on your hands. It's a really hard thing to do. You do everything backwards. In the linebacker field on the defensive line, Matthew Judon is been historically one of the best in the league. He had a rough season with injury last year, and so see if he can bounce back from that. For linebackers, again, no, everybody's returning.
Except him.
Except for Sion Takitaki. But again, no names pop off. It's still in the rebuild phase, still struggle to find their core on defense.
Milani Tavai is really good. So he's probably the best player on that linebacker core. Yeah.
Good. Speaking about some of the best players, Jabril Peppers has been a great player ever since he came out of Michigan. Continues to be a great player in that backfield and try to lead this team. Kyle Duggar had a fantastic season. And so with them at those safeties there, we'll try to shore up the defense and try to keep them in the game defensively while the offense tries to figure it out. For offensive depth, the big name there is Drake May. Most likely not going to be the starter, but he may come onto the field, 6-8 games in, depending on how Brissett does. But he's someone to watch. A lot of people have eyes on, especially with Patriots taking him early, being one of the 5-6 quarterbacks in the first round.
He was the third overall pick.
Yeah, third overall pick there. I think there's no other real names to point out except for like Jalen Reagor, Antonio Gibson, who have been starters on previous teams. And then you got KJ Osborne, who's also been starters on previous teams, now backing up. For depth here on defense, looks like you had Brendan Schuler, who was a great player last year, is now depth for the Patriots. Any other comments on defense here?
Marcus Jones was an all-pro returner 2 years ago. He was hurt in the first game last year, but with the new kickoff rules, he's going to make a difference on special teams.
Good. So speaking of special teams, brought over Joey Sly as a kicker and returned Bryce Behringer, who had a very sore leg last year, lots of punts. And then here we are with a brand new coach, first time ever being a coach in Jared Mayo. And he wasn't even a coordinator, right? He was a linebacker coach. And so this is a giant promotion, and he's got not only giant shoes to step into with Belichick moving on, but it's easy to say I think he may be over his head this season with so much expectation on the Patriots dynasty and a new job that's unintended out of his league. But he brings over again all guys, new guys, and Alex Sunpelt and DeMarcus Covington.
Yeah, one thing about Gerard Mayo, he's been with the Patriots organization since 2004, I think. He was a linebacker for several years with the Patriots, a really good one at that, a Pro Bowl, All-Pro linebacker. And then when he retired, he immediately joined Belichick's staff as the linebackers coach. He's been there since 2019, so he bleeds Patriot blue, and he knows this organization inside and out. And so there is that kind of thing to be considered. Yes, he's over his head with the new coaching position, but he knows how this organization runs.
Good comments. Yeah, Robert Kraft wanted to keep somebody in the organization who's been there for a long time. So that's good. All right.
Others is masseuse.
I guess you could say he took a hands-on approach.
Nice tag. 1-2.
All right, so starting on these questions, I'll read Pam's here first. Could it be possible for the Patriots to not suck and surprise us during their rebuild? And is there any hope for Patriots fans this season?
So I thought the 2022 Cardinals was a dumpster fire roster. This is a real dumpster fire. There's no possibility for the Patriots to even get close to getting third in their division, let alone to get past 6 wins. The only way for the Patriots to get more than 6 wins is probably through Madden or some fans' dreams. So my analysis there is there is no hope for the Patriots. It's just there's nothing that can be done unless the rest of their division just sucks, which is not going to happen.
Cody, I think that there is some other podcast where that exact paragraph was read about the Seahawks.
Slam dunking.
Ouch.
Keeping with the theme that the Patriots suck, thank you.
Don't you have to go to dinner or
Can the
something?
Pats get out of the bottom of the division this year?
No. The Jets will improve. The Bills and Dolphins aren't going anywhere. The Patriots can win more games and still be in the cellar and should do both. Yeah, I'd agree with that. That doesn't matter if they win a few more games. They're probably not going to raise from the bottom. Back into that, which leads directly into my question. In a stacked division where playoffs are a dream, what is the measure for success?
And this feels very similar to the Washington Commanders answer that I had last week. It's a different measure of success here. Patriots are the playoffs are not really realistic, and they're going into that this season with that idea. There is that pipe dream where they win 8, 9, 10 games and maybe sneak in as a wild card. That's obviously there at the top of their minds when everyone is 0-0, but the measure of success is a promising season from Drake May at some point, if he even gets on the field, or seeing him in practice and saying, hey, this guy's going to be good. Let him hold a clipboard and we'll see what he has next year. This is going to be great. Where you can build around your franchise quarterback. But baseline should be quarterback success, or at least the promise of it. Okay, Dustin, I think you need to go with one team left. We will finish this without you. Do you want to say anything about Aaron Rodgers before you jump off?
Yeah, my only thing of Aaron Rodgers is people have very high expectations for him. I think that even coming off the injury in a new system, even with all the time he's had to study the system, that I don't have high expectations for Aaron Rodgers. I expect there to be a surprising drop off, and for him not to no longer be that top tier quarterback that we've seen him in Green Bay, and probably be the beginning of the end of his career.
We're doing this in a little bit different way just to make sure we get your analysis of the Jets before we get to the whole thing. But Dad asked you how many games do they need to win for Robert Saleh to keep his job?
Yeah, the answer is enough to prove that Rodgers was the answer. If they have a poor season with a healthy Rodgers, Saleh he'll be dismissed. That's what I say is if Aaron Rodgers plays all season and they are under 500, he's fired.
I would agree with that. But we'll let you jump off, and then you can watch this Jets introduction preview when we post it online. But
all right. Go later.
Okay, so we will now do this Jets team without Dustin. And this is my introduction here. The Jets had a strange season. It was filled with expectations. It came to a screeching halt less than 3 minutes into the season. They finished 29th in points, 31st in yards. It was bad on offense. It was very good on defense. They have been good on defense since Robert Saleh has been the coach. Aaron Rodgers came over last offseason, immediately was viewed as a missing piece to get this team to the playoffs, ruptured his Achilles 4 plays and 1 incomplete pass into the season. Is reportedly 100% good to go, is fired up about trying to make up for lost time. He may be a complete moron off the field with his conspiracy theories and vice presidential bid, if you didn't know that, but he's a good quarterback. Rodgers has a pretty good collection of offensive weapons. Breece Hall finished 6 yards short of 1,000 rushing yards last year. Really good running back, both in rushing and receiving. Garrett Wilson looks like a star in the making. Mike Williams can stretch the field. He comes over from the Chargers to add even more weapon to Aaron Rodgers. And Tyler Conklin had a good year, 61 catches. Alan Lazard is a Rodgers favorite as well. Obviously, the Jets weren't prepared on the offensive line to protect Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers had 3 dropbacks last year. He was pressured or sacked on all 3 of them, including the one that ruptured his Achilles. So they remade their offensive line completely. They brought over Tyron Smith, an all-pro from the Cowboys, to protect the blind side. They added Morgan Moses and John Simpson, both from the Ravens. And Elijah Vera Tucker has had to fill in at all the positions on the line. He finally wants to settle in at right guard where he's best. Joe Tippmann looks like a pretty good center to build off of. Defense is the strength of this team. You can see the colors starting to show up on defense here. Quinnen Williams was an all-pro defensive tackle. Jermaine Johnson had 7.5 sacks last year, a Pro Bowl invitation off of that side. They went out and grabbed sack machine Hassan Reddick from the Eagles, but he promptly announced that he is holding out now for a new contract. Don't know how long that's going to go, but it's still going on. So, and they also signed big Javon Kinlaw to try to take away double teams that Williams gets. More colors here, both of them, both CJ Mosley and Quincy Williams were all pro linebackers, each with more than 135 tackles, some other disruptive plays as well. Very good linebackers here. Sauce Gardner has been one of the best cornerbacks in the league from the very first snap he played last year, or 2 years ago, I think, actually. DJ Reed gets a lot of attention on the other side because of Sauce's presence. He does a pretty good job with that attention. People know that about Aaron Rodgers missing the year to injury, but they don't also realize that they missed Chuck Clark all of last year. He was an all-pro 2 years ago when he came over. He tore his ACL in the preseason, so having him back there is a big deal. Tony Adams was a really great as slot corner. They bring over Isaiah Oliver from the 49ers. He can play any of the 5 positions here. The Jets strengthened their depth at quarterback by signing Tyrod Taylor in free agency. They also drafted Jordan Travis out of Florida State in the 5th round. He has potential, but there's really no chance of seeing him on the field this year. 2 running backs were taken in the draft as well. Braylon Allen out of Wisconsin. He is so strong. He squatted 610 pounds in the combine. That's just insane. He also rushed for 35 touchdowns in Wisconsin career. Isaiah Davis also comes out of FCS South Dakota State. He was an All-American there, had 50 rushing touchdowns over his career. Xavier Gibson is a good return man. Malachi Corley, 3rd-round pick. He's known as the Yak King of the FBS. Sorry, he picked up more yards after the catch than any other receiver in the country, so they like him. And Olu Fashanu was actually the first pick from the Jets out of Penn State. He won't start from day one, but it's likely that Tyron Smith won't stay healthy all year, so Fashanu will step up in his place to kind of learn from the future Hall of Famer, eventually be the starter there. Defensive depth, a lot of draft picks, or a lot of high draft picks, and Will McDonald, Michael Clemens. These guys were high draft picks that will contribute, along with Leki Fotu, nose tackle, comes over from the Cardinals. Back end also has good depth with Ashton Davis and Michael Carter and Brandon Eccles having a lot of games there, totaling nearly 100 tackles between them. They drafted Quantez Stickers and Jalen Key in later rounds. Jalen Key was Mr. Irrelevant, the final pick of the draft, so that gets a lot of attention now. Stickers was actually drafted out of the Canadian Football League. You don't see that very often, but he was the CFL's Rookie of the Year with 5 interceptions, and so he was drafted directly out of that league. Greg Zuerlein was very consistent. Thomas Morstead is a good punter. Robert Saleh is in his 4th season. It's a weird year last year, obviously. 18-33 record isn't very good. And like Dustin said just now, this is the year that he's on the hot seat with Aaron Rodgers healthy. If he doesn't get this team playing to what they should be, he will not likely have a 5th season. So let's move over back to this document. We already did my dad and Dustin's, so we're moving over to you, Cody.
What is a realistic expectation for the Jets this season, assuming Aaron Rodgers makes it past the first 4 plays?
Yeah. So with the talent that they have, if Rodgers stays healthy and wasn't too affected by last year's season-ending injury, I'd expect them to get about 8 or 9 wins this season. So not great, but not atrocious.
They have the current longest playoff drought in the NFL. 13 years and counting now, without being in the playoffs. Last playoff appearance was in 2011, I believe. So it's been a minute for the Jets since they've been there. So what is the biggest cause of the ineptitude in the Jets organization that has kept them out of the postseason with turnovers and everything like that? And Pam said that it's evaluating 2 things: bad luck and bad ownership. And I like that answer. Past 36 years, the Jets are 286 and 371 with 12 coaches. That tells me that ownership and upper management has been the issue. Only until recently, when Joe Douglas accepted the position, do they have the roster they have now, which is when that bad luck takes over when Aaron Rodgers is gone after 4 plays. So who knows? If Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, that defense plays to where they need to do, the Jets could be a playoff team this year. But we will see. Speaking of whether they make it to the playoffs or not, let's find this one. This is all over the place, except we all have the Patriots in last. We all expect the Patriots to finish last in this division. Everything else is way scrambled up. Cody has the Jets winning this division. Cody, you had that last year too, and obviously you can talk about the injuries and everything, but there was a lot of other problems that came out during the year last year. Why do you think the Jets have it figured out now?
I just really like what it looks like on paper. I just think that the season last year was expected to be the big one for them, and then they realized that this is a season for us to see what is wrong. Do our last little tune-ups. So the way I see it is on paper. If paper becomes realistic, which is possible, this is not just the best team in the division, but one of the better teams. So I'm of the opinion that Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers and that he can make plays happen whenever he wants to. I'm of the opinion that all the talent that they have is going to help them. As long as they can execute properly, they'll have 13 wins. They'll be comparable to the 49ers.
Boy, if I ever need somebody rooting for me, I want it to be Cody. This dude, the delusion is incredible, bro. I need you on my team. The only way the Jets are in top is if they figure out a way to clone Sauce Gardner 11 times and have him play every position on defense.
They have a good defense, though. They have a really good defense.
Yeah, their defense is really good. But Cody, I was with you up until you started comparing them to the 49ers. And that's not because I'm a 49ers fan necessarily. It's because there's tiers, right? There's the 49ers, there's the Ravens, the Chiefs, Eagles, maybe those 4 are a top tier. And then there's a second tier. I would put the Jets either in the second or third tier at this point. I don't think they're comparable with the top quality team like that. But we'll get to that in just a second. Yancey, I'm going to have you speak for yourself and Dustin because you both have the Dolphins winning this division. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, they're the best team. They're the best team there. If you look at just the Pro Bowlers on offense and the numbers on defense and the fact that they really only needed to replace they didn't have to do as much work as the Rams to replace their defense. And I think that they have arguably, when they're playing well, they have the best offense in the league next to a couple of teams. But talent-wise is what I'm speaking to, not performance, because the last couple of years they haven't performed up to what I think they have on the roster as far as talent-wise. And then with the Bills, I feel like they're the same case, but Josh Allen is kind of a question mark, and I think he's kind of going to start to hit downward instead of upward, and that's what put the Dolphins over the Bills for me. The Jets suck slightly less than the Patriots. That's why they got the 3 position, but they still undoubtedly suck far more than I think Cody thinks they do.
There's no way they're getting less than 10 wins. There's no way.
All right, flip that, Scott. So that way I'm going to start being a DJ, and that's how I'm going to start a song next year. There's no way the Jets get less than 10 wins, 10 wins, 10 wins.
Well, let me say this, Cody. I think that the Jets, I think their ceiling is probably 11 wins. That's what I think. And I think they could do that. I think they can win 11, 10. I think I'll have to check when we get there next week, but I think I have them in the playoffs as a wild card team. So I do think they're a good team if their offense can play anywhere near where their defense is playing. I think they'll be fine. But I have the Bills winning this division. My dad and I still have the Bills holding strong in this division, even with the losses that they've had all across the board and on offense and defense. I think that the Dolphins have a history of self-destructing when it comes to winter months. As soon as the calendar hits December, the Dolphins suddenly forget how to play football. They can't play football in cold weather. And I think they self-destruct again. And I even have them falling into third behind the Jets. And my dad and I have the same order here. But I have the Jets offense kind of struggling a little bit. So yes, I have the Bills winning this division, but it's going to be one of those 10-win division wins. The Bills win with 10 wins. Jets finish right behind them at 9, and Dolphins maybe at 8 or 7 or 8, depending on what happens there. That's what I feel. And I'll speak for Dad. When I was talking to him on the phone, he said that Josh Allen is going to win MVP this year, the NFL's MVP, and he's going to push that team, pull them all on his back, and he's going to win the MVP and get this team to a high seed in the AFC as well. So even dragging along the less than great talented players that they have on that roster as compared to previous years.
I think the last thing that I want to say is that I think that if everyone in this division stays healthy, this is one of 2 divisions where I could see the top 3 teams going to the playoffs. I could see the Jets, the Bills, and the Dolphins all making the playoffs.
I think that's a possibility too. But okay. That is the end of today's recording. Next week is our final week for the NFL preview. We'll be covering the NFC South and the AFC North. And so we'll be doing that next week in about 6 days, probably next Thursday. So we'll also cover playoff predictions next week. So it'll be a fun next week, and see what shakes out. Anything else anyone wants to say?
Cody, hit me with a gamer tag in the chat so that way I can we can ultimate team on college football, or I can give you these controller fingers, bro. Smoke you up real quick.
I'll just text it to you.
Bet.
Okay. See you guys.